So, this video is probably a little bit later than normal because I went to London last weekend, which I have a video that I am currently in the process of making that I will upload. And I caught COVID whilst there, which is why I still sound a little bit like ill. I mean, I always for some reason sound ill on these videos, but anyway. So I've been exhausted for the past like 5 days, and despite the fact that I feel like I can do things, and then I try and do something, and just anyway. That aside, let's get on with the video. Hi everybody, it's Jade, and today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in May. I didn't get through my entire TBR that I had planned to do in May. I actually fell 2 books short, but I still... how many did I read? I think I read like 7 books. Let me find out. I read 8 books in the month of May, so that's not bad at all, actually. I was sort of catching up on some books that I'd started the month before and everything, and I don't know why I keep doing these weird disclaimers at the beginning. But anyway, let's just talk about the books that I read, shall we? We'll do audiobooks first because I listened to 2? Yes, I listened to 2. So the first one I listened to was Beloved by Toni Morrison. This was my... what's it called? Anisfield Wolf Book Award winner for the Pop Sugar Challenge. I gave this 3 stars. I really wanted to love this book. The writing was incredibly poetic and very beautiful. The audio book that I listened to, I don't think it was the author that read it out. But anyway, the voiceover that they had for it was absolutely, like, rich chocolate. I could just listen to that woman's voice for like ever. However, I found the story itself quite dull, which is weird because it was like semi-supernatural, but I'm not sure. Beloved is a story of Sether, who is a escaped / freed slave in what time period? I'm not very good with dates. Who lost basically all of her children apart from one, through various means. Either they've died or they've just left. One of the children was a baby when she died, and her only name was Beloved, or Beloved. And then a few years later, while Sether is still dealing with this, and there's like a ghost of the baby in the house and everything, a girl sort of appears whose name is Beloved, and becomes like obsessed with Sether, and Sether's one remaining daughter sort of becomes obsessed with Beloved, and there's like, it's a bit like a family drama type thing with like a weird, like the supernatural element disappeared very quickly, and I don't know, I felt like the plot points were repeating themselves an awful lot in this book. And just the poetic nature of the story wasn't enough to like keep my interest, really. So, the second audiobook I listened to was The Five by Hallie Rubenhold. It was a non-fiction about the 5 victims of Jack the Ripper, and it actually chronicled their lives before they became the victims of Jack the Ripper, really focusing on them as people and not just as victims or like a number. And I gave this a 4 star. It was probably closer to like a 4.5. I was riveted the entire time. I was because I had a point in time where I was sort of very into serial killers. Like, I was like interested in them and everything, and then I realised, like, the more you get into it, the more it's like, all serial killers are losers. That's my line in the sand. All serial killers are just losers. And the stories always focus on them and like almost not deifying, but like mystifying them to an extent. And I'm like, I don't care about this person's past. I care that they like ended the lives of these other people. I care about the people that they killed. So this book was great for me because I learned more about the history of these women, about England and London and everything like that during the 1800s. Things that I didn't know. I'm very interested in history, and this was very sympathetic, which was great. And I feel like Hallie Rubenhold has a very similar opinion to me, in that we need to stop making Jack the Ripper this like mythical, like boogeyman creature type thing, because we're just almost like... Sorry, my mum just texted me. Because we're almost glorifying what he did, and the whole, like, spoiler, I don't know if you can spoil a non-fiction, but spoiler alert, the whole idea that Jack the Ripper killed prostitutes was just completely inaccurate. There was only one person, one of his victims, that self-identified as a prostitute, and like, I have absolutely nothing against sex work. Sex work is work. I'm against when it is forced upon people, when they have no choice and stuff like that, but the fact that basically, especially like the newspapers and the police at the time and everything were like, oh, he's killing prostitutes, and therefore that kind of put a spin on how hard people worked to actually catch him, because need I say more? Now on to the physical books I read. The first book I read in May was a library book, and it was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taya Jenkins Reid. I gave this a 5-star. I loved this book so much. I absolutely love documentaries. That's like probably one of my favourite like genres of movie, TV show type thing. Most of like my Netflix history and stuff like that are documentaries. I don't know what it is. I especially get into periods of my life where that is literally all I will watch. I will not watch anything else. And so the fact that this was written almost like a documentary just spoke to me. I also, almost forgot to say, I keep forgetting this. This was my book about a band or a musical group, and it somehow like captured just the essence of 1970s sex, drugs and rock and roll in a really like realistic way, but also in a very like glamorized. It like balanced the realism and the grittiness with glamorization, the way that a lot of pop star documentaries do. And all of the people in the book, all of the characters felt very real, like they could have been real artists and stuff that were being interviewed. And the fact that the entire thing is written as a transcript, so there's no like descriptions or anything like that apart from what people are saying, was just really refreshing and really good, and I don't know what that noise was. Did you hear that? Anyway, after that I read The Once and Future Witches by Alexi Harrow. This was another 5-star, this was another... Alexi Harrow, I've read 2 of their books and they haven't missed at all. Amazing, loved it so much. A little bit of a slow start, but so I read The 10,000 Doors of January last year, and now this year I'm reading this, and I think Alexi Harrow has very quickly become one of those authors that if I ever see her book on the shelf, I'm going to pick it up straight away because amazing. So this was my book about witches for Pop Sugar Challenge, and it's set in New Salem in the year 1893, whilst women's suffrage is going on in America. And a group of 3 estranged sisters happen to all like gravitate towards this town. And they join the women's suffrage movement and then sort of create their own as well to help witchcraft become a bigger thing as well, because it's very much a thing in this universe. It's or women have a little bit of witchcraft in them, and a lot of the time it is used for small spells like keeping dust off the mantelpiece and stuff like that, especially after what happened in Old Salem where you had the witch burnings and all that stuff. Am I speaking really fast? I should probably slow down. So they decide, oh well, witchcraft would really help us with this. So they create another like suffrage movement alongside the suffragettes, basically, to not only get more rights for women but also bring witchcraft back and stuff like that. And it's just Oh, it's just so good. This was not a bad reading month at all. It was just a bad for my health month. So my brain, I had a little bit of, if I get to a point where I'm like either rambling or I don't remember much about the book that I read or something like that, I had a lot of brain fog during COVID. So a lot of the past week or so has just been like a complete blur. After that, I read Persuasion by Jane Austen. This was my classic pick for the month. And what did I give this? I gave this a 4-star. I was just about to say there's yet to be a Jane Austen book that I didn't like. That's not true. I really didn't like Mansfield Park. Because I'm very used to Jane Austen heroines being bolshy and like full of gumption and stuff like that. And this was lovely. This is like a really low stakes romance, and I loved that. And I have to say, I think Mr. Wentworth is probably so far one of my favourite Jane Austen like heroes. So that's great. And Anne Elliot is brilliant. She's one of the quieter Austen heroines. Not as much of like a flimsy nothing as Fanny in Mansfield Park was, but she's closer to like a Jane than she is to an Elizabeth, is what I'll say. And yet she still has decent backbone and still is like, I'm doing this because I love helping people and I want to do this, but also I am still going to stand up for myself and I'm not going to be happy about like certain things. Also, I really enjoyed that a big majority of this book took place in Bath, which is quite close to me and a place that I love to visit, so I felt like very at home in it, which is an odd thing to say, but this was Jane Austen's last published work, I think, before her death, and it was very lovely. I feel like my bed's getting like more littered with crap as this video goes on, but yeah. The next book I read was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. This was my romance book by a BIPOC author, I believe. And also a book with a constellation on the cover. This was a 3-star. This is a lovely young adult romance. However, the reason it didn't rank higher was that the writing style annoyed me. Like, I still want to read the sequel to this, which is Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World, because I loved the characters of Aristotle and Dante, and I loved their friendship with each other, and I really frustratingly liked the slow burn aspect of this, because I hate myself. However, the fact, I think it's just the age range that this is aimed at is not me. And it's kind of almost written like a diary, and just some of the way that the main character Aristotle, because Aristotle and Dante are like co-protagonists, but it's all from Aristotle's perspective. Just the way he was like writing some parts of his diary and stuff, just annoying. So there were certain times I just was a bit thrown out of my immersion where I was just like, ugh, children, and literally I think that's just an age thing. After that I read Straight On Till Morning by Liz Braswell. This was my buzzword pick for a title with a cardinal or like a direction in the title, so I got Straight On here. This is one of the Disney Twisted Tales. I gave this a 3-star. Another really enjoyable book. I really liked the idea of Wendy going to Neverland when she's older. She's 16 in this, and the whole premise is that when Peter Pan lost his shadow originally, he actually never went back to get it, so Wendy just had his shadow for years and never went to Wonderland. Different book. Of course she didn't go to Wonderland. So she just had his shadow for years and never ended up going to Neverland, and was becoming quite jaded and withdrawn and everything, and was escaping more and more into her what she thought was her like imaginary world. Whoa. Wow, my accent really came out then. Her imaginary world that she still believes is real because she has his shadow and everything, so she decides, before she has to like properly grow up and everything, she is going to trade Peter Pan's shadow to Captain Hook for passage to Neverland, because she's like, well, Peter's never going to come and take me to Neverland, this is like my last chance to go. This has obviously unforeseen dark circumstances, and I loved a lot of the character choices in this, and some of the twists that Liz put into this story, and making Neverland a bit more dark and gritty and like realistic, and not the fairy tale that Wendy thought it was going to be, and just like the realism and just the realism whoa, I can't speak. And just the realism of what would happen if you were just suddenly dumped into a jungle with no provisions and you have to fend for yourself and you've never done that before. Like, the fact that she's tired a lot and she keeps getting, like, covered in scratches and stuff like that. And, yeah. It was a good time. I liked it. And the last book I read in the month of May was another Taylor Jenkins Reid book. She is very fast becoming a favourite, and I need to get like all of her stuff now. And that was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This was my book about a secret, and it was another 5-star, and I loved it. I only just finished it like a couple of days ago. Like, the whole golden age of cinema, 1950s setting that a lot of this is based in, amazing. She does like glamour and realism, like she gets that balance like really well in both of the books I've read. It's been enough that you're like, oh, I could watch this as a movie and like suspend my disbelief and all that stuff, and yet there is also the realistic undercurrent that you're like, yes, this is probably what actually happens and stuff like that. And the way she writes female characters, especially female characters that are sexualized by other people, in a way that she lets you know that they are sexualized and all that stuff, but she also very much lets you know how much they are a real person, and how, like, so many of her like heroines, like Daisy Jones and Evelyn Hugo, are so, like, they own their sexuality so well, and they know what a power it is, and they're like, well, I'm gonna use it. If people are gonna sexualize me anyway, I'm gonna get something out of it. And then it's just, she writes people so well, and I just gushed a little bit, but anyway. And yeah, all of her characters are so realistic, and you can both love and hate them at the same time, and I went into this not realising that it has LGBT representation, and it was a really nice surprise. And it was so well written, and the characters are just so real in her books, and I just love it so much. And I have Malibu Rising on my shelf. That's my other Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I currently own, and I want to read it so badly, and I want to read everything else she's ever written. So, those are all the books that I read in May. Have you read anything that was on that list? Did you love them? Did you hate them? Did you agree with me? Did you vehemently disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, and maybe subscribe if you want to see more of the stuff that I've done. As always, be kind to yourself and be kind to others, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.